Alright, so let's take a look at this. We're asked to sketch on paper the graph of this function. It is a parabola. Okay, we have a squared and the other value is not squared. Also notice that it's the y value that is squared and not the x value that is squared. So this will open either to the right or to the left rather than up or down. We're asked to find the vertex, the focus, and the directrix as we're graphing this parabola. So we would always want to start, if possible, if we have it, with our vertex. And we are given the vertex. That's a pretty ugly graph paper there, but it'll probably work out okay for us in this case. This is a sketch. Okay, so as we look at this, the first thing again we want to find is the vertex. Now remember, the vertex of a parabola is h comma k. In this form, remember the h value is the one that's with the x, the k is the one that's with the y. Also recall that the standard form, when we have y in this form, it's y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. Okay, so make sure you get your x and y value in the right order. So for our vertex, when we write this down, we're going to change the sign because notice it's subtraction here in our standard form. So this is our y value, it's with the y, so that's the y value would be positive 2. Again, we changed the sign there. The x value is the one that's with the x, but we change its sign, would be negative 1. So our vertex, so far we know our vertex is at the point negative 1, 2 for our sketch. So right there. The next thing we're supposed to find is the focus point in the vertex. Now, the focus point is a point inside of the parabola. It's a distance of p from our vertex. Okay. So when you're trying to find the focus points, you need to do two things. You need to say, okay, what is the value of p? And also, which direction is this parabola opening? Because the focus would be that direction. If we look at our standard form, notice the number in front of the parentheses here is 4p. So our number here, 8, is 4p. So to find our p, we're going to take 8 and divide it by 4. So we're kind of undoing that. Okay, so we had this, 4p was equal to 8. So to find our p, divide both sides by 4, and we get p equals 2. So the focus point is a distance of 2 away from the vertex, and then we say, okay, in which direction? So which direction does this parabola open? It's a y squared, so it's going to open either left or right. And to decide that, we look at our number here in front of the parentheses. If it's positive, it opens right. If it's negative, it opens to the left. This is positive, so it's going to open to the right. So to the right from my vertex, I go 1, 2 to the right, and right there is my focus point, the point 1, 2. Okay, so my focus point is the point 1, 2. The other thing we're asked to find is the directrix. The directrix is a distance of p the opposite direction, so it's underneath or outside of the parabola. The focus point is inside. So I know my parabola is going to open that direction to the right. My directrix would be behind it. So I start at the vertex again, but I go the opposite direction, a distance of p. So our p was still 2. So, but rather than going to the right 2, we're going to go to the left 1, 2. And the directrix is a line. In this case, a vertical line. So that would be the line x equals, okay, because it's where x equals 1, 2, we're at negative 3 there. The line x equals negative 3 is my directrix. So those are my values, and again, to find those, I wrote down my vertex very carefully, changed the sign and made sure I put the number that was x in the x position, the number that was with y in the y position. To find the focus point and the directrix, I took this number in front of the parentheses. I had to divide it by 4, and I went that distance to the right to find my focus point, because this was opening to the right, and then to the left to find my directrix, which was a line. Now, if it's a y squared, your directrix will be x equals. If you had an x squared parabola, it would be a line y equals, because it would be a horizontal line. Now, for sketching the graph, we want to take a look at this. One more thing that helps to sketch the graph is something called the latus rectum. And what that does is it tells you the width of your parabola at the focus point. Okay? The latus rectum is a length of this number that's in front of your parentheses. So our latus rectum in this case has a length of 8. But remember, if we split it in half right here at the focus point, it'll be 4 and 4. So I'm going to take that length and divide it by 2, and that tells me how far to go. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 at the focus point, and so this is one edge of my parabola. And then I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, so that I have a total length of 8. Okay, that latus rectum just told me the width at the focus point right here, and most texts will point that out. That helps you to sketch and know exactly how wide your parabola is. Okay, so there is a sketch of this parabola. The vertex was at -1, 2. The focus was at the point 1, 2. That looks like a 12, but that's a 1, 2. And the directrix was the line x equals -3. So again, find your vertex by looking at your equation. Find the value of p by taking the number in front of parentheses and dividing by 4. The focus point goes the direction of the opening. The directrix go the other direction, that same distance, and you'll have your graph.
Text. Again, look carefully at the equation. The x part of our vertex is with our x. In this case, it's the squared part. The y part is with our y. Okay, and when you write down that vertex, change the sign of each of those. So our x was negative, would be -4, and our y +3. So let's go ahead and put that on the graph. All right, so there's our vertex. It's at the point -4, 3. Next thing we want to do is find out where our focus point is. Now, two things we need to look at is this number in front of the parentheses here is -16. And again, in the standard form, remember this is 4p here. We need p. So to undo that, we're going to divide by 4. And we get that p is -4, which means our focus point is going to be down 4. I know down and not to the left because our x was squared. With the negative, that means this parabola opens down. So I go down 4 units, and there will be my focus point. Okay, so my focus point ends up being at -4, -1. If we wanted to continue drawing this parabola, we would next find out, we know it opens down, but if we wanted to know how wide, again, you may be asked at some point to use that, what's called the latus rectum. Shows you how wide your parabola is right at the focus point. And you take this number here, that's the width of it is 16, but we're going to divide it in half so that we can go in each direction. Okay, so it's a width of 8, or 16 total, 8 in each direction from the focus point. So this would be 1 point on the parabola, that's to my right, 8. And then we go to the left of the focus point, 8. That shows you the width at your focus point. And remember, the vertex opens towards that focus point. Okay, so if they asked us to go ahead and draw the parabola, hopefully you can draw prettier than that, but that's basically what it would look like. Okay, so we found our focus point, again, was at -4, -1. They also want the directrix, which is a line. okay, that's outside of the parabola. In this case, it's going to be above it. It's the opposite direction from as the focus point. The focus point was below, so the directrix is going to be above in this case. The same distance of P, so it's going to be 4, but we're going to go up 4. And draw our line. We don't want it to run into the parabola, so since we have a horizontal line, that would be the line y equals, where are we right now? Y equals 7. Okay, so our directrix is a line y equals 7. We have sketched a graph, albeit an ugly one, but we did it, and we have identified those 3 parts. We'll do one more of those. Again, they ask us to go ahead and sketch on paper. So let's start with our vertex. Notice again, our y is squared this time. So we have the standard form, y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. hk is our vertex. Always remember, okay, use the x for the x part of the vertex. There was nothing added or subtracted from the x, so that means our x coordinate is 0. The y is y plus 1. We change that sign. So our vertex is the point 0, negative 1. I'm going to go ahead and put that on our graph. There is our vertex. The focus point is going to be a distance of p from that vertex. And is this going to open? It's a y, so it's either going to open right or left. The y is squared. Notice this 12 over here. That's where we look to see if it opens to the right or left, is negative, which tells me it should open to the left. We're going to find our p. Again, in the standard form, this is 4p right here. So to find p, we take that negative 12 and divide it by 4. So we get that p is negative 3. So it's going to be 3 to the left. Y to the left and not down because this was a y squared. So it opens either right or left. So there is our focus point. It is at the point negative 3, negative 1, it appears. Okay? If we wanted to continue drawing our parabola, we would find the width of that lattice rectum, which is, again, this number here, 12. We're going to cut that in half so we can go in each direction from the focus point to get a total of 12, and we get 6. So we know our parabola is going to have to open to the left, but we want to know how wide. So at the focus point, we're going to go up 6 and put a point there. That's on our parabola. And we're going to go down 6. Okay, so our parabola starts at the vertex, opens toward the focus point, and at the focus point, the width of the parabola is 12. 6 on each side. Okay, there is a horrible sketch of our parabola, and so we found our focus point was at negative 3, negative 1 using p. And our last thing is to find the directrix. The directrix will be in the opposite direction of the focus point. So focus point was to the left, the directrix will be to the right, the same amount. Our p was 3, so we're going to go 3 to the right and draw our line. The directrix is a line. Okay? We write the equation for that line. This is the line x equals positive 3. And there you have it. Okay, so these take a while to get used to. There's lots of parts and pieces and counting and things to look at. The most important things as you're starting is which direction is it going to open. Okay, up, down, right, or left. And you can tell that by whether the y or the x is squared and whether this number over here on the right-hand side is positive or negative. And we go from there.